Hey, I'm A.C. Gentry Jr. I've been living in this house since 1930. My dad designed it, built it, and before that we lived in the house next door. That actual house, yes. This was built in 1930. It was designed in 1928, built in 1930, 29 and 30, and we moved in it in 1930. I've been here ever since, with a few little side trips to the Army and that sort of thing. He was an engineer and architect. Myself, my brother Joe Brady Gentry, my mother, and my father. One time we had a cat when I went in the Army in 1950. I went back in the Army in 1950. We had a dog named Mickey, which one of my girlfriends had given me, but he died while I was gone, and it broke my father's heart. He didn't like dogs, but that dog sort of took up with him, and when he died, he really missed him. Well, there was no house across the street, no houses south of me on the block south of me. In fact, every house I can see from here on back, I remember them being built when I was a kid, and that was one of my pastimes. We played football on that lot over there, and Walter Knight built all these houses around here. He was a prominent builder and one time mayor of Tyler. And yeah, the street ended right here, and these are all dirt streets. And you came down this street, went to a bridge behind my house. It was a wooden bridge across the creek. Didn't have cows or chickens. Neighbors up the street had them, but we didn't. When the oil boom hit, there were a lot of people came to town and had to sort of live off the street, and they found out my dad had indoor plumbing, and they'd come out and ask him if they could take a bath. I don't know how often that happened, but I know that my mother was always amazed with the number of people that showed up to take baths. Yeah, well, right over here was the blackberry area where the other neighbor up on the next corner had a blackberry patch back here. But in the 1930s, the WPA came in and they walled this creek up, put these walls in and fill this in, and the labor from the WPA, Mr. Knight was the mayor, and he used them to his own advantage because he owned the property around here. So he had them block this in and fill it in and built houses on it. This was probably 33 or 4. Was a sandy area right in here, which I remember seeing 2 mules get stuck in the quicksand right here, and they trying to get them out, and they couldn't, and they went. I remember seeing those mules go under the quicksand, and they're still down there somewhere, or what's left of them. This is college right here, and this is Lindsey Lane, what's known as Lindsey Lane. This was all dirt back in the early days. Came in and laid bricks. They had bricklayers that they could move along and lay these bricks in a real fast method. You can see the difference between the bricks in this side of this, and then this was laid later. I don't think the trolley came out this far, because this was outside of the Tyler. It didn't come this far. My house was the last house in Tyler when we built there in 1930. This lot was fenced in and belonged to the house up on the next corner. And when I was a kid, somebody driving from out of town came through here, and a car made a move to cross the street, and the guy panicked, and he came down this way and jumped this curb right here where it says 921. Went up and through a fence and down and hit between 2 trees, and he pinned himself in the car. Couldn't get out of the car because he was pinned in. Lindsey Lane and stopped, and there were three dividers. There was a long one, then a narrow turnaround, and then another long one. And they had cannas planted in the middle of it, and they were beautiful when they bloomed, but they only bloomed for a short time each year. So the rest of the time, the city had to worry about keeping those things green. Oh, I don't know. I would say maybe 12,000, 13,000, something like that. Maybe not that many. Wasn't a very big town, really. Big for that day and time, I suppose. City water by that time. Electricity out here. This was built after we moved in, but the Rice home across the street was Dr. Rice, a very prominent doctor in Tyler in the 1930s. And he had a son, Bob Rice, who was also a very prominent doctor. But all these houses over here were built by Walter Knight. Everything on that block. The street ended right there where the pavement changes. You can actually see the outline of where they sat by the brick here. See, from right there to right here. It's a circular thing on each end, and turn around in the middle, and then another one on past there. Trolley, per se, it might have been a bus or something.
Way back when?
Well, it might have been a trolley, I suppose.
Well, didn't we have electric trolleys in Tyler at one time?
Did,
but they were downtown mostly.
They were mostly downtown, and I can't really remember. I vaguely remember them being downtown.
I guess that
old little bitty kid. Well, when these houses were not here, it just dropped off very suddenly to the creek down there. And when we were kids, we'd hunt for arrowheads along the banks of that creek. And, of course, my mother wouldn't let me cross the creek. That was the limit of my exploration. And that big white house on the corner was not there. And they built this street and had to build it up to put the street in. And then it dropped suddenly down to the house that has been raised 4 or 5 feet there. Filled it in when the WPA put in the stone masonry along that creek. That's when Tyler had a lot of growth from the oil field growth. People were making a lot of money and moving here, and the rest of the country was in a depression. Tyler was lucky we were one of the few places that you could come and get a good job and make good money. Well, originally the first one was a T model. Then we got an A model. And when we moved into this house in 1930, I think about 1932, we got a Ford V8, I believe. Maybe it was 33 we got the Ford. And then we traded in 36 and got another Ford. And in 1941, we bought a brand new car on the 8th day of December 41 because World War II started, and my dad immediately went down and bought a new car because he knew there wouldn't be any more automobile production for the next few years. And we bought a new ice box the same day because of the fact that war was going to cut off all the production of that kind of stuff. The idea was that my brother and I were to move in there, but the war started and we couldn't get any plumbing put up there because they cut off all the access to plumbing material, so we never built a bathroom in it, so it was never used to live in. It eventually became my painting studio. I'm A.C. Gentry, and you're in Tyler, Texas.